And it kind of just seems like everyone was excited at Man U for Šeško, and like the excitement's just completely gone.
They lost a fundamental performer, which is Luis Diaz, allegedly probably the best player of the team.
Better than Salah?
There. Oh yeah, I think so. I know that
Wow.
in terms of fantasy, maybe not, but I do think that he's more.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Nutmeg Theory, a new podcast. I'm Jake Rozhansky, and I'm with my co-host
Mauricio Catach.
And today we're going to talk about the crazy transfer deadline day and probably the biggest transfer window in history. So let's unpack the madness. Let's start with Arsenal. So Mauricio, what do you think about the transfers in and out for Arsenal?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of good. Overall, I think it was a great transfer window for Arsenal. They got plenty of players in all the main positions, from a backup goalie in Kepa, Mosquera and Hincapie in the defensive line. I think Zubimendi was a great addition to the middle as well. And up front, just Madueke, Eze, and Gyökeres are beasts. I think all three of them are great players, and I think that they're adding a lot to the squad right now. They didn't lose great players. I think that they did very well with the replacements. So I think that potentially they're the strongest team for the season. So I don't know. What do you think about the Arsenal team now?
Just to preface this, we are both Arsenal fans, so just to disclose that from the beginning. Number one signing that I'm most happy about is Eze. Like, I was ready to cry myself to sleep when they were saying he was going to Tottenham, just because I love him as a player, and he's a boy from Arsenal. He grew up in Arsenal, so I'm happy that we brought him back. And I think we needed him whether or not Havertz was injured. He's just the creative spark that we need. As you can see, like, watching Arsenal lately, and probably the past season and a half, in my opinion, has been like kind of dull to watch. Like, we play a very robotic, like, there's a system and we stick to the system. I think Arteta's moved from creative football to a lot more of like structure and playing it safe. So I really like Eze. Zubimendi looks like a great signing as well. I gotta be honest with you, I'm really scared for Gyökeres. Just like some of the stuff that I see, like that one chance he had when he like turned and hit the ball towards the corner flag versus the goal, and like he didn't look like he knew what was around him, what to do, or anything. Like, it scares me. But he's an absolute beast. He's an animal physically, which might be the thing that Arsenal needs. Like, we might need somebody like a Holland type of player who doesn't need to touch the ball all the time and just stay up front, make good runs, and just finish in the box. Like, we need a box finisher. So he scares me. I'm really happy that he scored 2 goals in the previous game. Not the game against Liverpool, but the game before that. Like, I know that gave him some confidence and he can kind of silence the haters. But we'll see. We'll see what he can do for the rest of the season. So let's move on. Next, we got Liverpool, who the last second decided to buy Alexander Isak after this long drama with Newcastle for 125 million. So what do you think of that?
Well, I think that at first I thought this is the best signing that we're going to see in the transfer window. But then I saw Ekitike play, and then I thought, do they really need him? Like, I think
that's what we all thought.
That's what we all thought. And I think he's going to add. Listen, I think that he's one of the best players, and I think that both Ekitike and Isak are different players, right? I think that Ekitike is more of a transition player, whereas Isak is the one that has like the best XG. Maybe he creates some chances in a different defensive setting. So when the team is kind of back parking the bus, I think that he's going to be able to create more chances. Whether or not they're going to play together, it's still to be defined, but I think that they have a lot of depth now. They brought in great players, and he could be one of the best, deadliest strikers that we see in the league if he does the same that he did for Newcastle.
So where's he going to play? With Ekitike? Not with Ekitike? Is he going to play on the left? Is he going to play up front?
Yeah, so I think that at first, because Ekitike is playing the way that he is, I think the player that leaves the team today is Wirtz. Because honestly, he hasn't really started playing the way we expect him to play. I think both can play on the left, and that's something that could happen for Liverpool with Wirtz playing more towards the left. That's where he's had most of his touches in the past, and he can sort of roam inside and have that left side. I think that at first he's going to start rotating those players, so yes, they can play together. If some player is going to be sacrificed, I would sacrifice Wirtz. I don't know. What do you think?
I think you're going to see them both play at the same time. I think one of them's going to go on the left. I don't know who's coming out. Probably Wirtz right now, because you're not taking out Salah. In terms of the other signings, I think Jeremy Frimpong's out of luck. I got to be honest with you. Like, I don't see how you take Szoboszlai out of the lineup right now. Yeah. He looks incredible as a right back. This is the best I've ever seen him play for Liverpool. And if this is how he plays as a right back, like, he should just be a right back, because he drives forward, he attacks, he defends. The guy can strike a ball. Like, we all talked about Trent and how he could strike a ball. Szoboszlai can, as we saw last game against Arsenal, he can strike a ball. So I think Frimpong might be out of luck, especially because he's injured now for a while. Kerkez, another sign they brought in. They put a lot of money in for him. I don't really know how good I think he is. I know we were texting during the Arsenal game, and I was like, Madueke has him every single time. Just like run at him with pace. He did make a couple good recoveries. He made a couple good tackles. I do think he's the weak link, though, in the team. And I think that was the same thing as last year with Robertson. And they tried to replace him with a better player who's a little bit younger, but I still think that's the weak link in the team.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if he was the EPL like defender left back of the season last season. So I think that they tried to get someone who was already used to the league and who could be younger, kind of replace Robertson there. But I agree with you. Like, he wasn't really impacting the game as we thought defensively. I don't know if I like Szoboszlai. I think that he's an amazing player. I love watching him play. I think that he's someone that is going to be crucial if he plays in the midfield. So I don't know if I would not if I would play him on the right. I know that right now there's something there that with Frimpong being injured, but I don't think that's a long-term team. I think that they have to find something between that trio with Gravenberch and McAllister. I think that that is a very strong midfield, and if Wirtz doesn't really pick up, I would still have Soboslai in the midfield. So sure, they could play a Trent role, but I don't know.
I'm putting him at right back from now on. If he continues playing like that, I'm never moving him. He was incredible last game against Arsenal. And then the last deal that we have to talk about, which did not go through, is the Guéhi deal. So if you're not aware, Marc Guéhi was like almost confirmed that he was going to Liverpool on the last day. He actually scored the day before for Crystal Palace. He scored a great goal, and it seemed like all things are pointing to him leaving. And Crystal Palace is bringing in a replacement of Igor Jesus. That fell out at the last second, and then because of that, Crystal Palace decided not to sell him. Like they made him a farewell video and everything, and I'm sure that's a hard place for Guéhi to be, but I really like what Glasner did, the coach. As you can tell, like he's a great coach. He helped them win the FA Cup, the Community Shield, and the team looks good. The team looks really good. And just a couple years ago, like their squad was in shambles. So he's definitely a good coach. He knows what he's doing, and he stood firm, which is like, if we don't have a replacement, I'm not letting my captain go. Because that just breaks the whole spirit of the team. And it's like, oh, we're a selling club, and we're kind of just ready to rebuild. And so Glasner said if Guéhi goes, he's resigning. And at the end of the day, they decided not to sell him. Guéhi stays. He'll probably be in Crystal Palace till January. Crystal Palace probably try to sell him again for a discounted fee while they can look for, or if they can find a replacement. If not, he leaves for free next summer. So any thoughts about that?
I mean, now I think that he's probably going to leave as a free transfer in the summer. So I think that they lost their window there. I totally understand the coach wanting him to, like the captain, and to keep him in the squad just because he's a great player. I was watching the video after the game, and I don't know who it was, a teammate was saying, like, you've never done that even in practice, and you scored this amazing goal. I
think it was Mateta.
Mateta, right? Yeah. I think, like, listen, I don't trust Konate's physical condition. I feel like he's an injury-prone player, and Liverpool really needed him. I totally understand Crystal Palace, and now with the deadline, it's very tough when you don't have that. Okay, what's the plan B for Liverpool right now? From a Crystal Palace point of view, I totally understand them, and he's a great player, and hopefully Liverpool can get him next season, or try to do something this summer.
Yeah, just interesting for me, like the domino of events, like what can happen and what cannot happen. So like Igor Jesus, deal falls apart. West Ham takes him at the last second. They hijack it. Joe Gomez is ready to go to Italy, I think. Because Guéhi deal doesn't go through, Joe Gomez stays, and like I think we all agree that Guéhi's a better player than Joe Gomez. Joe Gomez is a further drop off, but Liverpool definitely needs cover. Like I was watching Van Dijk in the Community Shield, and I was like, he looked like he's dropping off a little bit, and he's like the captain. He's everything for that team. So they definitely need another center back. So we'll see if he goes in January for a discounted fee, or if he just signs in January saying that he's going to go on a free in the summer. So that's yet to be seen. So we'll wait to see about that.
And I would say that that's something that they probably should have learned from Arsenal, because Arsenal struggled with some injuries for their defenders. So when there's a curse basically there with Timber, with White, with even Saliba and Gabriel Magalhães.
Every single year
there's a player that is injured in the defensive line, and now with Arsenal's transfers, Mosquera and Hincapie, I think that now there's depth there. Of course, some players left, Tomiyasu left, Kivior left, so they replaced these players, but you need to have depth. You need to have other names there. So we'll see if in the long run Liverpool is going to be harmed by this transfer deadline day.
Yeah, we'll see. So let's move on to Newcastle, who at the last second got rid of their star striker Isak for 125 million. So what do you think about how Newcastle played this whole situation with Isak? Did they do it correctly? Did they do it incorrectly? What do you think was happening behind closed doors between Eddie Howe and Isak? Just give me your thoughts on that.
I think Newcastle did what they could. I think that from what I understood, this was a situation that was happening already before. Isak comes and he has a great season, one of the top players. I think that he started to have renegotiation conversations, and they didn't happen. I think that there were some changes in leadership in Newcastle, and he didn't have that, I'm not going to say promised, but what he thought he deserved, and the numbers showed that he deserved that. So I think he set his mind to leave, and honestly, he was... I think that that's the difference, as I mentioned before as we were chatting. I think Rio Ferdinand posted something about this, talking about how the difference between Guéhi and Isak. Isak really pushed, and he said, this is what I want. I want to go to Liverpool, and I'm going. And you see that he didn't play. Like he got in probably a bad situation with the supporters, with the team, with everyone, with Eddie Howe. He still decided, and that's, at the end of the day, it did happen. Whereas Guéhi, maybe he really wanted to go, but did Liverpool really want it? Nobody seemed to really push for it. Allegedly, that's probably a defender was probably even better for Liverpool now that they had Ekitike, so everything that we just said. So I think that Newcastle did what they could to hold him, but I think that he had his mindset. They did try to get a couple of replacements that. I think they did a good job, because I kind of think they didn't really believe Isak was going to play. So I think they had that in their advantage. Like, it wasn't a last-minute transfer. They were trying to figure out a different solution, and I think they had those cards well played.
Yeah, I mean, for Isak, you never really know what's going on behind closed doors or what he's been promised. Like, we all know this. Unless something's in writing, you really have no promises. This just brings up another conversation for me to debate, which is, should the transfer window be closed at the beginning of the season? And I think so, because like then you get into these issues where players don't want to play. They're pushing 3-4 games into a season that they want to leave, and it's just tough on the clubs. Like, what are they supposed to do? What is Eddie Howe supposed to do? I do think Newcastle should have gone for Nicholas Jackson. I would have gone for Nicholas Jackson. I think he's a player that was disrespected at Chelsea. Every time I watched him, he had great movement, and he would get to that final position where like you got to finish. And his finishing wasn't great. We all know that. But I think with a little bit of confidence in a new environment, which he's getting at Bayern Munich, I think he would have been great at Newcastle. I think he would have fit them perfectly. But they ended up signing Woltemade from Stuttgart, the German Peter Crouch. So, and they also signed Wiese on the last day. So I'm excited to see Woltemade. I love watching those like giants up top who can win every header, and I miss watching Peter Crouch play because he had the technique as well. So what are your thoughts on him coming from Germany to Newcastle? You think he's going to be a success?
Yeah, I like him. I think that he's an interesting player. I think he's like a mix of Crouch with Berbatov. He's not really a Zlatan, but he's like, what if Dirk Nowitzki played soccer? Kind of player, you know. So, like he's 6'5", 6'6", I don't know. And he's like 198. He has a very good close dribble. He's very technical despite his size. And I think that he doesn't seem to be the player that misses those chances. To the point on Nicholas Jackson, I disagree. I think I prefer... he's a huge bet, but I prefer Woltemade as opposed to Jackson. I think that he had many chances. Not only I get the aspect of being able to be in position and to be able to create those opportunities just because of your movement, and that's super important. We recently saw, I think we shared a video each other about Callum Wilson and how he was zigzagging and just those movements, how crucial it is for a forward to know how to position himself. But at the end of the day, he wasn't really converting those chances. So I feel that Woltemade is a player who will be able to convert those final goals and bring more to Newcastle. So time will tell, but that's my bet.
We'll see. The Nicholas Jackson disrespect just continues from everybody. I swear, he was in the Premier League. He did well. Don't forget, he just signed a new contract. Like, he literally just signed a new contract recently. Chelsea decided to bring in Delap and João Pedro, which I think that those are both good signings, but I think Jackson deserved more. I feel bad for him, and thankfully he got the deal to get out because they were saying he was going to go, then he wasn't going to go. The same thing with like the dominoes. Like, if one thing didn't happen, then something else doesn't happen, which is Delap got injured, and then they were like, hold on, we may not actually send you on loan. So we'll see. So next is
I guess so bringing Chelsea into the mix. I guess let's talk about that, because I don't think that Jackson was going to be able to have an opportunity now, especially with Delap and João Pedro. You're Delap. You're offered to come to Chelsea and be your number 9, and then in comes João Pedro, has that amazing Club World Cup. If you're Delap, what's going on through your head? How are you feeling about that?
I mean, I feel like he's out of luck too. He just got injured. But even if he didn't get injured, like, João Pedro looks great. He's scoring goals. I think Delap was probably pissed when he saw João Pedro sign, because if you follow Premier League at all, you know that like Delap was probably the hottest name in the summer, because he went to Ipswich, which is relegation team, but he still had a great season. He knew that he was not going to stay at Man City, and all the pundits were like, his agent's phone is ringing nonstop, and he could have gone anywhere. Like, I feel like he would have been better at a Newcastle. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. Like, Chelsea comes in, big money offer, you're the first striker to sign there. You're like, okay, Jackson's on his way out, makes sense. But then João Pedro signs, and he's probably thinking like, oh shit, and he's probably not happy with his agent. Maybe he is because he got a big money deal, but in terms of playing time and all that, he's going to have to work his way back from injury now, and he's going to have to prove himself, like, coming off the bench. And if he can do that and get some momentum, he'll get his chances.
Yeah, and I think that's something also interesting, and we were discussing before also, and I think we can talk about this a little later, but the type of player that is being signed and isn't being signed. I think that João Pedro said something interesting with the national team today. He was having the press conference, and they asked him about his transfer, and he was saying that he's not really a 9, he's not really a 10, but that's the new style of forward. He said the old style, striker that is just staying there in the box, that's gone. Now it's about a player that has movement, that can create plays, and that makes me think that, first of all, he's just saying that Delap has no space, or he's saying, listen, both of us can play together. Because João Pedro isn't really the 9 that's going to stay in the box. I feel that he's a very technical player. He could play as a second striker behind that. So I think that now, with the added depth that Chelsea has, with those two beasts in the middle in Enzo Fernandes and Caicedo, I think they're running the pitch all over. We'll see what happens with Cole Palmer, but bringing in Estevão and other players, I think that Chelsea has such depth, and they can create variations in how they play with different formations. That is very interesting. One of the most, I think that they're going to be a hard team to predict. How are they going to play? Is Reece James going to play? Is he going to play on the right side? Is he going to play as an inverted wingback? I think that they have many options.
Yeah, I mean, Delap and Pedro are playing together. Maresca had them playing together before Delap was injured. So they have a lot of options. Speaking of Cole Palmer, he was a drop for my fantasy team. I might end up regretting that decision, but I just had him too long. He was second half of last season until now, and now he's injured. I was like, I gotta get rid of him. But if you ask me who had the best window, I think it's Chelsea, because they got rid of some like dead weight, in my opinion, and they brought in players that are more Maresca style. They brought in a bunch of players with pace. Pedro Neto on the left. Now he came in last year, but like they're so pacey. Pedro Neto on the left. They have Gittins. They just brought in Garnacho, who has pace as well. And I think they just brought in smart signings as well. As like they did a lot of big sells. Some of them I don't understand why these clubs give Chelsea so much money, but if Chelsea can do it, why not? Any other thoughts on Chelsea, or should we move on to Man United?
I mean, I think you called it out. Chelsea is just out of the big six is the one that had the only club to have the positive net transfers. And it's speaking of Chelsea, that's something that sounds kind of weird because we're always thinking of Chelsea as one of the main spenders out there, and they actually have had a positive transfer window. And I think that they did a great job, as you're saying. So very excited about their transfers. Looks like it's going to be a promising season for them. One of the contenders for sure.
Yeah, so let's go on to Man U. So Man U is in an interesting place right now. Emery's already under pressure, as all previous Man United managers were pretty quickly. What do we think about their transfers? They brought in Buemo, Cunha, and Seško.
Yeah, so they definitely needed to find someone up there. It wasn't happening with Hoyland here. He already left. Xerxes wasn't really working the way we thought he was going to work. His numbers haven't really been great. I think that from a creation standpoint, he's a little below, and I really was hoping Xerxes was going to be able to help the team, kind of like a little Havertz player, but for Man U. I think that I think that shirt is one of the heaviest shirts in soccer. It's just tough. Not even ever since Sir Alex Ferguson left. It's just so hard, and you think about everything that's going on with that club. Listen, I don't know what they could do in terms of how they treat their players and the patience that they have, but I can use as an example Antony. Antony was phenomenal at Betis. That's why he went to Betis now on a transfer, not on a loan. And I think that they're going to be able to get the best out of those players that leaves. And it's just appalling to me that you see these players that play so well, come there, can't really play, and now they're leaving and doing well. I think that they're bringing in 3 interesting players up front. Different styles. I think they can all play together. Matheus Cunha, again, one of those players that could be a 9, but he's kind of a 10. So that false 9 position is very interesting. And I think that they're going to add and take the load off of Bruno Fernandes' shoulders because there's a lot of pressure on him. He's the one who's creating. Now they have more options. So I'm excited about that. I don't know if you agree or if you see it differently.
Yeah, speaking of Anthony, I just read today that he said that he could have gone to Bayern Munich for double the wages, but I don't know if you saw that, Mauricio, but he promised to Betis. Yeah, he promised to Betis. I hope that was real news, not fake news, but he promised to Betis that he would try to come back. If it was possible to come back, that he would come back. So I'm happy for him. Like, it was nice to see him. It was not nice to see him struggle, but it was good to see him go to Betis and play well and enjoy himself again, because just felt like he was in jail at Man U, which I feel like that for multiple different players. Cunha I love. I picked him last year, beginning of the season, as fantasy team as the breakout star. Ended up being true. I think he's so good. Unfortunately, he just got injured. And Buemo, also great player. I think he was a good pickup for them because he has Premier League experience. He's strong. He can hold the ball up. He's a goal scorer. Seško, I don't know what to think about him. Before, the whole world was talking about how good he was. He was a top striker in Europe. It was like Arsenal was deciding between Seško and Gyökeres. Arsenal went for Gyökeres, and it kind of just seems like everyone was excited at Man U for Seško, and the excitement's just completely gone. I don't know if you feel that way, but I just feel like everyone's he's actually not what we thought he was, and I could be wrong because we haven't really seen him play that much. He's been coming off the bench in every Premier League game, so we'll see. I mean, the thing about Man U is, when I was young and starting watching soccer, I remember Man U having the best wingers and attacking down the sides and getting balls in the box, crosses all the time. And I just feel like they don't play like that anymore. And especially with Emery's style, he doesn't really play with wingers. He plays with wing backs. So instead of kind of having 2 players out wide, which would be a wing back and a winger, you only really have 1 player out there. And I just don't know how successful that would be moving forward, especially with Ahmad. Ahmad's playing on the right, but he's left-footed. So not getting as many crosses in. And then Bruno Fernandes, to be honest with you, I don't think he's had a great start to the season. He's been pretty poor. In his defense, he scored an unbelievable penalty. What I mean by that is the pressure that he had on him at that moment was crazy. And just I have huge respect that he stepped up and took that penalty in the last game, even though he missed the one before.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what I meant by the pressure that it is to wear the Man U jersey. And I don't know what's going on with there. I don't know if Ruben Amorim is going to survive the international break, but it definitely feels like that is taking a toll on the players' performances and even Bruno Fernandes. And yeah, to your point also, Antony, I think that's something that we have to address. And he's a player that had, I think that the transfer fee, that put a lot of weight on the player. So I think that's something that, we're looking at these crazy amount transfer fees. And sure, the players are, it's just the market and how it's been evolving, and you have players that are having this inflation, but it really adds to the pressure of, I am a $100 million signing and I have to perform. And I think that really took a toll on Antony. And at the end of the day, he made his money from going to São Paulo, to Ajax, to Man U. Now he needs to be happy, and he needs to find his soccer. He wants to go to the World Cup. He's got talent. He's got everything that he needs, but he needs to be happy and be able to perform. I don't think that if he went to Bayern, he would have that. He would probably get into a rotation like we saw what happened to Sané and Mane and all those players. I think that he could potentially just be in the same situation that he was at Manchester United. So I think that that's good. A player needs to find where he thinks he's going to perform the best.
So we'll go on to Man City next. So Man City brought in Reinders. They brought in Donnarumma on deadline day. They brought in another keeper in Trafford who's been playing. Cherki, who just recently got injured, is going to be out for the next 2 months. And then Ait Nouri. So Mauricio, like terrible start to the season for them. They lost to Tottenham. They lost. Who did they just play?
Brighton. Yeah, they lost 2-1.
Yeah, man.
Yep. Scored the first goal, conceded after a penalty. Milner scored. Milner scoring in every single season, I guess. And Gruda. So, yeah, not looking good for City.
Not looking good for Pep.
Yeah, not looking good for Pep. And I don't know if he's tired. I don't know what's going on. But it's like, I think we were talking about this before. First of all, it's interesting to see the goalkeepers changing clubs. So, first of all, Ederson, like Brazilian national team goalie, allegedly one of the best goalkeepers, ball-playing goalkeepers, passes the ball. It's totally the Pep style, having and building from the back. And we know how important that is to his style. They brought in Trafford, and he made a mistake with the ball in his feet already in the first game. So we know how important that is. We know that Pep wants to play that way, and just letting Ederson go and bringing Donnarumma. So he brought in 2 keepers, not 1 but 2. And Donnarumma, who is one of the best goalies in the world, best maybe shot-saving keeper, but he was let go in a way by Luis Enrique just because maybe one of the reasons is he doesn't play well with his feet. So I thought it was an interesting move. I know that they brought in good players. Reinders had for us fantasy league players, he had a great first game. Everyone wanted to have him. I think it was 5.5 cost. So everyone wanted him. He played a phenomenal first game. But I feel that now with Cherki injured, I just don't think that it was a great transfer window. They lost Grealish. They lost Kevin De Bruyne. And I'm not sure if the players that are replacing are really going to make City get back to their good glory days. So.
Yeah, I mean, they look like they're in trouble, to be honest with you. They look like they're rigid, and I kind of said the same thing with Arsenal. Like they kind of got figured out. Foden, who was their star 2 seasons ago, kind of nowhere to be seen. He was injured. Everyone's waiting for him to come back. He hasn't been playing. Doku's on the bench. He hasn't really looked great to me. Haaland barely touches the ball as it is, but he's always going to score when he gets an opportunity. Rodri's finally coming back in, which is like the most important player for them. But they just look vulnerable. Like defensively, they look very vulnerable. Aït-Nouri, who they brought in, is a very attacking left back. I don't know how much worrying he does about defending, but I think he's definitely a weak link in the back for them. And I just wanted to ask you about this intel that you have on Turkey that's being talked about in the Brazilian press. So Gundogan went to Turkey, Ederson went to Turkey, a couple other big transfers all went to Turkey. Like, what is going on there?
Yeah, so I think that's a very interesting topic because we're seeing all these transfers. To your point, Ederson, Gundogan, Sane. We had already Osimhen there. We have many players that are playing between Galatasaray and Beşiktaş and Fenerbahçe. These 3 great teams from Istanbul. We just see a lot of players that are not cheap players playing. And so one of the news that came was just talking about how actually there is an incentive from the government, from Erdogan, to also kind of help foster soccer because soccer is used as a political. Not going to use the word weapon, but
tool.
It's used as a political tool. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Apparently players there just don't pay as much taxes as the ordinary folk does, or even people that make as much as the players. I think that they pay up to 20% in taxes, whereas people that make the same amount or similar will pay as much as double that amount in terms of taxes. So there's a lot of incentive there just because of the popularity of Turkey's of soccer in Turkey. Like they're crazy fans, they're super supporters, and we see what's going on. And it just feels like it's going to be a house of cards because it is clearly unsustainable. We're talking about teams that have potentially like a Bournemouth or a championship kind of budget signing these players that are Premier League players. So I think it's very interesting to see how politics and the political aspect of it, signing these players because they need that strength and they're kind of appeasing everyone with those transfers. But it's interesting to see how this political aspect is going to inflate even more the market there.
Yeah, and you just had 2 big managers leave Turkey. They get fired like 2 days after each other, which is Mourinho at Fenerbahçe and then Solskjaer at Beşiktaş. So a lot of big names.
Coaches. I think the curse is there again. Speaking of Man United.
Well, listen, we could see the rumors going around that Mourinho's coming back to Man U because he said he's going back to a team that's not playing in Europe. So he could take over. Yeah, he could take over for his fellow countryman in Amorim. And listen, to be fair to Mourinho, like Man U's had their best seasons when he was the coach. They finished second. They won a trophy. I mean, nobody's come close to that since. So we will see. And next, we're going to move on to Spurs, the North London rival. I'm sad to say that I think they had a great window. I think their fans were very upset about the whole Eze thing. But I think Thomas Frank handled it correctly, which is like, if he doesn't want to be here, I don't want him. And on top of that, they made some great moves after that whole move to Arsenal, which is they brought in Xavi Simons, they brought in Kolo Muani, and again, this is like what we were talking about earlier, which is like what kind of players are these Premier League Cubs bringing in? Which is like Kolo Muani is like pacey, playing on the wing, direct. You see that with many other teams, many other players, Gittins, Garnacho. The list just goes on and on. Fulham just brought in a winger from Brazil, from Shakhtar. Like you're just seeing a lot of wingers coming in who are very pacey and very direct. And I think that's just a trend of how the league is going, which is like more athleticism, more about running ability, more about pace. So any thoughts about Spurs in their window?
Yeah, I think also I agree. It's an interesting, great window given what's happening. we're looking at all the other big six, and we're seeing so many transfers, huge transfers with great players, and it sort of looks like we're belittling Spurs, but it's actually a massive transfer for them. I know they're replacing Heung-min Son, and they had to find good players, and they just brought last-minute Xavi Simons. I think that's a great transfer. Mohamed Kudus, also a great player. Even João Paulinho coming in to replace Højbjerg. I think that they're in a good place. They started phenomenally well. I'm going to say that even my country fellow Richarlison started to get better, so hopefully we're going to see that.
He came out of hibernation.
Exactly. He's just like Memo Ochoa. Just every 4 years, he thaws and he shows up like, hey, guys, I'm here. So every 4 years, he's going to show up. But I think the Spurs have an interesting window. I think that they're finding themselves now. New coach, new mentality, new players. Now they don't have the Kane-Son duo anymore. So I think it's a new phase for Spurs, and I think that they're doing well. So I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I do. And speaking of Richarlison, like he did come out of his hibernation. I think it's World Cup time, so like he knows that. I think Thomas Frank's a good manager for him. He did not have a good time under Postecoglou, under Big Ange. Thomas Frank came in. I think everyone knows he's a good player, and he's a fighter. Like he's a guy that you want on your team. You don't want to play against him. He's a guy you want on your team. And Thomas Frank has like got them very disciplined and organized, whereas with Ange they were kind of like all over the place. I don't think that really helped anybody. So that's perfect for Richarlison. I think he started the season really well. I put him in. I did not start him in my fantasy team because I didn't know what to expect of him. I transferred him in after I saw the first game because like he looks like he's hungry. Paulinho against City was excellent. I know we were talking about it before. I thought he was excellent. It's just another type of player that I think all Premier League clubs are moving towards, which is like a destroyer, a big, tall, strong defensive mid. You see all the clubs. A majority of the clubs have it. Rodri for Man City. You have Caicedo in Chelsea, who's not the biggest guy, but he's an animal and just wins tackles. Arsenal just signed Norgard. They had Partey last year, and then Xhaka before that. And the list just goes on. And it's like those guys, Declan Rice at Arsenal, like those guys who can run and tackle and break up plays. It's just so important in the game today. So I really like that signing. He already had Premier League experience at Fulham. Didn't probably have the best of time at Bayern Munich. So I think this is a good move for him too. Kudus looks like he's re-energized again. He was like up and down at West Ham all the time. I don't think he was the happiest there. He looks like he's hungry as shit too. Excuse my language. But he looks excellent as well so far. They lost the last game to Bournemouth, which has kind of brought them back down to like, okay, like we got to tamper expectations. But I think they're going to have a good season.
Yeah, agree. So talking about all of the big six that we kind of talked about, who do you think had the best, like what's the pecking order there of best transfer window, worst transfer window out of Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, both Manchesters, and Newcastle? And well, we can add in Spurs off, of course.
The best was Chelsea, in my opinion, just for the amount that they brought in from sales, as well as like I think they brought in really good players. I think they bring in too many players, and they have deals that just like don't make sense. Like Boanate, they just signed him on loan at the last minute. Like, why are they bringing him in? Maybe he'll make me eat my words and he starts playing. But it's like every year now they just sign so many players, and it's like a revolving door around Chelsea. But I do think they strengthened the team, and they brought in a lot of money. And like you said, they were the only team to get a net positive transfer window. Worst for me is definitely City. They don't look good. Like Reinders looks like a great player, but they don't look cohesive. They just look rigid, and they look like they're figured out. And I didn't really understand the whole goalkeeping thing. Why they get rid of Ederson? Maybe he wanted to leave. But I just think they've had the worst window. I think all the teams at the top, the big six, were all like, we need to spend because everybody else is spending. So Liverpool had a great window. I mean, look at the players they brought in. But I think they may have an issue with too many cooks in the kitchen. Who's dropping out? I mean, they spent basically close to 100 million each on 3 players, which is Wirtz, Ekitike, and Isak now. So like, what are they going to do with that? Arsenal, I think, had a very good window. But if you ask me my order, I'm going to go Chelsea 1. I'm going to go. I think Spurs had a great window too, so it's tough. Chelsea 1, probably Liverpool 2, Arsenal 3, Spurs 4, and those can be interchanged. Who am I missing here?
Manchester United.
Manchester United probably 5, and Man City 6.
And Newcastle in there.
Newcastle, not a big 6 team. I don't think you consider them big 6 yet, even though they finished in the top 6.
Yeah, I think that they're probably going to be up there just because I know they're not the top, but I do think they're going to perform better than Man United. So I'm counting on them there, and that's why I would have them at least above Man United's transfer window.
It's hard for me to like put Liverpool at the top because if you look at the players they brought in, you're like, they're amazing players, but I don't know, again, how they all fit together. I think it would have been an even better window if they could have got Gueye in and then Joe Gomez out, but that didn't happen. We'll see if Isak and Ekitike can fit together. If they can, I mean, they're going to win the Premier League, in my opinion, because they look very cohesive again, and I think their attacking options are just too strong for other teams.
That's fair. I agree. My order is going to have to be, I agree with you, it's going to have to be Chelsea, first of all, I mean, how can we argue, right? The only of the clubs that was net positive, and they have great signings there. I'm going to add Arsenal as second because I think that they have players in all positions. There's a lot of excitement on a couple of these players, Jokic and Eze, and none of the players that left are really going to impact the team. And I think that that's why Liverpool is third, because while they brought all these players, and again, to your point, there are many cooks in the kitchen, they lost a fundamental performer, which is Luis Diaz, allegedly probably the best player of the team. And now they're changing the
Better than
landscape
Salah?
there. Oh yeah, I think so. I know that
Wow.
in terms of fantasy, maybe not, but I do think that he's more impactful, and I do prefer Luis Diaz. And now Bayern is obviously going to destroy. There are no contenders in the German league, but I think that he's one of the biggest players that Liverpool is going to miss. So that's why I don't think that while they spent as much as they did, as you said, I don't think that they're going to be able to replace him as well, and that's why I put them third. I will say that I am going to add Man United before Man City. I think that Man City was probably the worst there in the transfers, as you already pointed out. And I think that because of the money that they spent, we do think that Manchester United's like a good window. But I agree with you. I think Spurs was better. So that's Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs, Man United, Man City.
Okay, and then there's one deal that we did not talk about, which is Man U, which is San Lamens. I hope I'm saying that right. The goalkeeper, the Belgian goalkeeper. I think it's a big signing for Man U because Onana and Bayern look like they do not know how to control a box, especially on corners. Like they look like they have no clue how to command the box. I thought for sure Emi Martinez was going to Manchester United. I'm kind of surprised about what happened, and he was kind of just left waiting by the phone for a phone call, which he never got. But Man U decided they'd probably go for the cheaper, younger option. And supposedly this guy's supposed to be the next Courtois. So we'll wait to see. I'm sure he's going to start now. I don't think you're going to see Bayern anymore. I think Onana is out of the plans for Amorim. Onana says he wants to fight for his spot. As you know, there's only one goalkeeper that can play at a time. And when he's looking like he's going to be the third option now, I think he's going to have to go in January.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that when we saw the Inter and City final, and both keepers were Ederson and Onana. They were both ball-playing keepers that could be able to control and start the game. And it's crazy to see that both of them and the Manchester teams are either left or are leaving. And I don't know if it's also the heft of the Manchester United jersey as well, but I'm curious to see if that's going to work out in goal. I am skeptical, but yeah, hopefully it's going to work out.
Yeah, it just shows you how quick football moves. Like you can see a player have a good season one year and they're on the rise, and the next season doesn't really work out, or a new coach comes in, it doesn't work out, and then they're moving in the complete opposite direction. So football moves so quickly. So that's all I have, Mauricio.
I think that's a great first episode there.
Yeah, so that's it for today. A lot of talk about all the transfers, the big 6 transfers at least. Please check us out on Instagram, on TikTok at the Nutmeg Theory, and if there's anything you want us to discuss, please let us know. Until next time.
Peace.